All right, gentlemen.
Start your engines.
Let's recap first, once again, because I feel like recapping last week's race the rest of the season.
Yeah, you should just play it how we hated Jack Christopher. We like the exacta basically cold. So better than that.
Hey, that is true. That's one thing that we did not talk a whole lot about, you and I, Chad. Just taking a look last week, of course, remembering the fact that we talked a lot, not just about liking the winner of the race, but going against Jack Christopher, who was coming off of 4. So we talked about the bounce, we talked about the level of competition, and we also talked about the distance.
Correctamundo.
So, what were you the most disappointed, Chad, about Jack Christopher?
What? Nothing. He was a.
No, Chad, because I know you didn't like him.
We didn't like him.
I was most disappointed that he ran 3rd and not 4th.
Right.
Yeah. So was it a big surprise to you either that he had that kind of a race, Chad?
He said he didn't like him point blank. He said he wasn't training
show.
well.
A lot of people listen to both shows. So
why would they not listen to this show?
I know they should. They should. No, the Monday and this show. These two shows.
Oh, well.
So
I listened to what do you have, 80 or 90 listeners for Monday?
I don't know. I haven't checked the last 24 hours.
How'd you run today?
Who's the girl behind you, Chad? I see some woman walking. Who?
I was gonna win and then get
Leah Giamatti says hi, everybody.
Who?
Leah Giamatti.
Oh, okay. Is my son with you? Is my son with you?
Yeah, I'm changing the battery on my car right now. My battery died this morning.
Oh my goodness!
Multitasking. All right.
Golf carts going, cars going.
On this show, we are going to first of all open up with the 2 big races at Saratoga, and then we're going to say goodbye to everybody else that is not part of our Patreon program. I don't know why you wouldn't be for $5 a month with all the big time winners that we've been throwing out there for the past few weeks.
Few weeks, a lot longer than few weeks, my friend.
And we have definitely been praised very well from our patrons, so we appreciate the kind words. Nice to know that we are being respected and appreciated, absolutely, and respected. But yes. So again, we are though going to offer up these 2 races. First of all, the ones at Saratoga for free. And that's because, to tell you the truth, the reason we usually just do 1 bonus, but we figured let's just do the 2 because we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on these races, John, because the fields are short. 6 in the Alfred G Vanderbilt, and then only 5.
Excuse me. Are we on the air?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought we were still shooting the breeze. Sorry.
That's a smooth way that I made sure that we were live on the air. So, yeah. So the 8th race, we'll start first with the Alfred G Vanderbilt, and this is the race with Jackie's Warrior, the 1-5 morning line favorite. So, is there any way at all that Jackie's Warrior can have that one disappointing race like he had at the Breeders' Cup, which actually came after a 2?
Excuse me. If you look at the line last year before you ran the 2, that's just
6,
staring at you.
5, 2, then 13. Now 6, 5, 2.
Now what?
That's the big question.
At 1 to 9, I don't want to find out. Can he win? He's the most likely winner in the race. So, I mean, what could I tell you? But do you want to bet a 1 to 9?
In case he doesn't win, who's to pick?
I don't know.
How about NY Traffic? He is, after he came up with that 4, he bounced to the 12. He's had a 7 and a 9. It's Irad Ortiz. He's won 2 straight.
He's all right. I mean, and the Safi Joseph horses are starting to run well up here this year, unlike last year. I know he only has 1 or 2 wins, but today he had a horse that made a big run at a big price.
And how about Doc Amster, the 20-1 long shot, who in his last 4 races has gone 16, 15, 11, and 8, and is a 20-to-1 shot. So that's actually a horse that I would, if I'm going to pick Jackie's Warrior, maybe I'll go 4-6 to see if I can make a little bit of money.
The problem with the 6 is, though, that he's speed. And, anyone that's going to think of running with Jackie's Warrior is not going to finish second. They're probably going to be finished. They're probably going to be eased.
What do you?
I think New York Traffic's a better idea.
What do you?
Personal.
What do you think about Jackie's Warrior overall, Chad?
Look, I mean, he's the fastest horse in the country. He's the best sprinter in the world right now. When you talk about the numbers bouncing, you have to talk about the fact that he had a chip. He had a chip in his ankle. They took it out, and since then he's come back and he's done nothing wrong. So, I don't necessarily think that he went off form last year as much as he got injured in the race, and that's what happened with Jackie. This is as close to a walkover as you're going to see in modern day racing. There's nobody else in the race that is of the grade 1 quality that Jackie is. The only way he gets beat is because Saratoga is a graveyard of favorites.
I was just going to say that, Chad. Secretariat got beat here.
Things tend to happen, but outside of that, some kind of an alien attack or something like that, it would very much be Jackie's race to beat. Now, that being said, when you talk about Doc Amson on the outside, what you have to talk about is the fact that he is an uncoupled entry with Willie Boy. Now, Willie Boy, when we last saw him, was the winner of the Smile Stakes down at Gulfstream Park, which is a big quality race. A Drain the Clock was in as well, coming back from Dubai. And Willie Boy was able to kind of sit the right trip and stalk and pounce and defeat Drain the Clock impressively. And I think that Doc Amson's job in this race is to challenge at all means necessary Jackie's Warrior. Jackie's Warrior is brilliantly fast. I don't know that he's fast enough to run with him early. Jackie is so quick that first quarter of a mile that it might not matter. But he's in there to try and be a pace presence to set it up for Willie Boy. So if anybody has a chance to beat Jackie, I wouldn't go the route of New York Traffic. I would go with Willie Boy. But I think it's going to be really, really hard pressed to beat Jackie's Warrior here.
Yeah, I mean, Doc Amster is a sacrificial lamb. He's there. He has one mission in life, to take as much out of Jackie's Warrior as he can. Not that he could take anything out of him, but that's what they're going to try to do, I guess.
Chad, have you ever been in the spot like these other trainers where you're going to get a Jackie Warriors type of horse in the race, and their chances of winning are not very good at all, but you went ahead and raced anyway? And if so, why?
Yeah, I almost ran Wendell Fong.
What was that?
Literally in this very race. Look,
what do you mean? Chad had plans of running Champagne Poetry in some of these races. Really, he really did. And knowing, that he wasn't going to win, she wasn't good enough to win, but she could hit the board. And if she hits the board, she gets black type. So her breeding value goes way up. Chad does it a lot. I'll answer the question for him.
I think that it's time, place, situation all plays a big part in it. How your horse is doing, we pay attention a lot to how other horses are doing. So, for example, you look back and you at the Haskell and you say, man, we watched Jack Christopher for the last month. Jack Christopher wasn't doing that great. So, with that being said, you're more excited to roll the dice and take on a Jack Christopher, where maybe if you're training out of your mind, oh man, maybe Jack Christopher is the real deal. You have more questions going into the race. So it all kind of depends and varies on situation of your horse, the other horses, and really sometimes, it could be the means to an end. So you might have a horse, and there aren't really any horses in this race as an example, but maybe your horse wants to go the 7/8 distance of the Forego, which is now, Travers Day. You have 4 weeks. So rather than just working your horse and working your horse and working your horse, you would rather just run it the 3/4, not give it all out to beat Jackie, but get a good race, run second, third, make a nice paycheck, pay some bills, okay. And then you're ready for 7/8 race later on, where maybe you say, Jackie's Warrior is a 6 furlong specialist. Maybe he doesn't want the 7 furlong distance, and so you say maybe I can turn the tide on him in 4 weeks' time. Those are kind of the reasons behind taking a shot. I mean, you look at a horse like Knee Deep in Snow, for example, who we've talked about on the show before. He's been claimed 3 times for $80,000. In talking to owner Marshall Graham of 10 Strike Racing, when he said he was going to run in this race and take on Jackie, he said, we're in Saratoga. We have a chance to run in a grade 1. It's a small field. The partners can see their silks running, and why not? Let's take a chance and let's see what happens. He deserves the opportunity, and that's how sometimes these owners will take a shot and take a chance when you're taking on a prohibitive favorite, in this case, like Jackie's Warrior.
Yeah, because the purse is all the same, right? Whether or not it's a 4 or 5 horse race or a 10 horse race. So if you finish in second or
Correct.
third, you're getting the same amount, right?
Yeah, 20% for second and 12% for
Yeah,
third.
so that makes sense then. Okay. You wanted me to ask, because you didn't originally, we didn't have, you planned on this week's show, because you are coming on next week's show on this Thursday broadcast, about the 10-pound weight deal. You wanted me to ask Jon how he felt about that.
Yeah, so I mean, just from a sheep perspective, Jon, like Jackie's Warrior is carrying 127 pounds. A lot of other horses are carrying 117, 116. When you do your, I know the sheets equate for weight difference when the past sheets, but when you're looking at the sheets, how much do you pay attention to that as far as what the weights are that the other horses are carrying, and does that vary if Jackie's Warrior, and look, in this situation, Jackie's Warrior sheet number is so much lower than everybody else that maybe it's a moot point. But if Jackie's Warrior ran an 8 and the horses he was giving 10 pounds to ran a 10, is that an equalizer in your opinion?
Yes. Well, every pound is equivalent to a point. Every 5 pounds, I'm sorry, is equivalent to a point.
Okay.
So, if you have 2 horses that are the same numbers, they both run 8s, and one of them is carrying 7 or 10 pounds or 5 pounds more, you deduct it and you penalize that horse for carrying the extra weight.
Okay.
A lot of people don't put much stock into weight, but weight with sheep players is extremely important. It's just common sense. If you're running on the beach with 2 rolls of quarters in your pocket, you're going to run a little slower than the guy with. You're going to run a little faster than the guy without the quarters in his pocket.
And it's very interesting because spending time internationally, and I know we have viewers kind of around the world, but from an international standpoint, weight is everything.
Yeah.
So while handicappers in America don't pay much attention to it, it is a big deal overseas. Horses are actually handicapped based on weight, and so
Why?
they feel like it's an equalizer.
Why is it so much bigger overseas?
Do you know that the founder of the sheets, Len Ragozin, and his partner, Len Friedman, they would claim they would never use anyone but a bug boy. All they always use were bug boys. And that's how important weight is to them. They would never ride anything but a bug boy. So it's certainly important to some people.
And the late, great Bobby Frankel as well. In races
Yeah.
that were handicap races, he would cry and moan and complain.
Oh, in the racing office and cry, he got 2 pounds more or 2.
Right.
I'm not running here. They're taking advantage of me. I'm going somewhere else. Yeah.
Exactly.
What's a bug boy?
An apprentice is called a bug boy.
Okay.
So they have a significant weight allowance, 10 pounds, 7 pounds, 5 pounds over the competition because it's an equalizer because they haven't had as much race experience.
They don't have experience.
Okay. And so I did the last thing I asked you was why is it more important overseas, the weight?
It's the way
it's just a cultural thing.
It's just their mentality.
They're I mean, in Hong Kong, everything is based on weights and everything. They weigh the horses every day. It's very, they feel as though weight is a great equalizer,
Okay.
and they've seen it out in their handicap races. Everything that they have over there, there's very few races overseas in Europe and Dubai where it's even rates, other than a Group 1 or a Group 2. Other than that, all their local handicaps are all significantly based on their class and their ranking and their rating, how much weight they carry, and they'll be as much as 8, 9, 10, 12 pounds sometimes that separate the field in condition races. It's very interesting to watch, and look, they have a big proponent of gambling over there and bookmakers and things like that. So it's something they believe strongly in, and look, will this affect Jackie's Warrior at the end of the day? Probably not. Joel Rosario is probably excited. He can eat an extra slice of pizza on Friday night. But that's about it.
Where does a horse like Jackie Warriors go from here?
I mean, look, it's the Breeders' Cup. It's strictly up to how he comes out each and every race. He has a stud deal in place already. He's going to go to Spendthrift Farm at the end of his career. The Breeders' Cup is that last race at Keeneland. Does he run between now and then? it's completely up to him and the connections, what they try to do. Maybe they stretch him out in the Forgo. Maybe a race like the Vosburg or the Phoenix. All options are kind of on the table, and they can also just go fresh from here. This was their big summer objective, was the 6 furlong, the 6 furlong Vanderbilt. This is the race they've been targeting all year long. It's the next kind of box for them to tick off, and it's a race that they've done well in the past. Although I do have to say that Matoli, as a big favorite, did get beat in this very race by Imperial Hint just a few years ago.
And guess who trained him?
Steve Asmussen.
Same trainer that Jackie wore. Jackie.
And could we actually see the some of the winner, like the winner, or some of the horses, the top horses from the Bing Crosby matched up against Jackie's Warrior?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
and
the trainer, Steve Asmussen, is as we turn the page to race 9, has Epicenter, the favorite. So it could be a Steve Asmussen double at Saratoga. This is a much more competitive race, though.
Yes. I'm playing against Epicenter here. I like the 2 Chad Brown horses. I like them both. I like Early Voting and I like Zandon. And Epicenter was the favorite in the Derby, and he ran second in the Derby, but he also ran second in the Preakness. I think Chad Brown did a terrific job with Early Voting, passing the Derby, pointing for the Preakness, and Zandon ran in the Derby and then skipped the Preakness. So these are the 2 fresh horses coming in. Not that Epicenter's not fresh. He didn't run since the Preakness. I just think the other 2 horses are the right horses.
Yeah, I like Early Voting. Who do you like, Chad?
Look, this is an important race for all 3 of those horses, to be honest with you, because this is kind of, where are you at this point? We saw in the Haskell Cyberknife, Taiba, they've kind of stamped themselves moving forward into the Classic campaign. We haven't seen these 3 horses in a little while, and we want to see, have they improved? Have they taken that next step forward between the 3 of them? Epicenter, it's very important. He did nothing wrong all winter. He was on top of so many people's polls going into the Derby. Everybody thought Steve Asmussen needed to win a Derby. He ran second, came back in the Preakness with a questionable ride and ran second again. He needs to take that step forward and beat these horses on Saturday. But look, I mean, I agree with Jonathan that both of the Chad Brown horses are coming into this race great. I ran second to both of those horses in their maiden breaking scores. They're very different horses. Zandon has a history of not breaking tremendously well, while Early Voting sometimes will break the gate. And with the race, with the small field, I really think that plays to a benefit of Early Voting. And he'll have the early lead and be in front, kind of setting fractions however kind of they see fit there. And Zandon needs to break better. I mean, he's trained great. He looks a picture. Everything has gone right, and really how they've won it. They've pointed to the Jim Dandy since the Derby. There haven't been any hiccups. It's not like he's coming off the layoff because you're like, man, something went wrong. He was hurt. This has always been their plan. Jim Dandy into the Travers. Chad Brown is a stickler for planning things, but he needs to break better because in a 5-horse field, he's not going to get the opportunity for them to come back to him like they did in the Kentucky Derby, like they did in the Bluegrass, like they did in races past. So it's very, very important that Zandon with Flavien Prat really, really, really get a better break. This race might be decided in the first 200 yards of the race.
Chad, Epicenter early in his career showed a lot more speed than he did last time. I don't know if it was the break. It was the fact that he was coming back on just 2 weeks after the Derby, but he has a possibility to show speed. If Rosario decides to get aggressive, then it really sets things up for Zandon, because if Early Voting and Epicenter go with each other, and they could, I'm not saying they will, but they could, that helps the chances of Zandon, I think.
I don't think Steve Asmussen was very excited about the ride that he got last time, and he might have been a little flat. He gave it his all in the Derby, and in hindsight, the horses that were 1-2 out of that Derby, maybe even 3 if you include Zandon, maybe needed a little bit more time to recover than coming back in the 2 weeks. So the freshening, I think, will play to his benefit. I think Joel Rosario will have the opportunity to see kind of what happens when they leave. If he shows more early zip, I think he'll allow him to use it. But he hasn't been the most fluid looking of horse. He wasn't all winter. He does things right, but not extraordinary. And kind of all since he's been at Saratoga, it's been more of the same. He's looked a little bit choppy in the morning time warming up. He breezes well enough, but Zandon, to me, Zandon and early voting are working much, much more better than him. But the work two back with Joel Rosario aboard was impressive, and he broke 4 lengths behind the maiden. He beat him by 6, and he looked good. But other than that, he's been just okay working in the morning time. Looked okay galloping in the morning time. Where Zandon and early voting have really, really, really looked very, very well coming into this race.
All right, so that'll do it for this portion of the show. We are going to say goodbye to our free listeners, but for anybody that is a patron, again, it's you can check it out, patreon.com/PrimeSN.